Hello, Otafest podcast listeners. I'm Angelo, and I have an entire J with me today.
100% J. Made from concentrate.
Concentrated J.
I don't know. Yeah,
Jay was concentrating so hard that he was looking at everything through the popsicle stick again. I think the popsicle stick is becoming a recurring character, isn't it?
It is. It's the newest mascot of... No, it is not the newest mascot.
No. Oh my god.
Why not have a popsicle stick?
Why not have a popsicle stick? Okay. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have some news and announcements. Artist Alley applications are now open and will close on November 23rd. New this year, we have single-day tables. Check the application and site for more info. Please see otafest.com/artists. And panel applications are now open. Showcase your passion and creativity, whether it's a game show, educational talk, competition, or something brand new. We want you. This is your platform and time to shine. Panelists go to otafest.com/panelists.
So many things to apply for. Which one will you choose? My God. I should remember how to speak.
Oh my God. I don't remember how to speak ever.
No.
I pretty sure I've just destroyed that part of my brain back in college. I chiseled it out to make room for anime.
And then you joined the podcast.
Damn right.
Very
now,
useful.
You probably thought I would say, oh, in college, I chiseled it out to learn more things in college. No.
That's not what college is for.
No. In college, I just stayed awake all day playing Team Fortress 2. And then I would go to bed at 3 a.m. And at 6 a.m., I would wake up to start biking back to college.
That does track because Angelo is 2 years older than I am. And I had the orange box when I was about 18. I think it came out when I was about 18.
Yeah, it came
sounds
out in,
about right.
07.
Okay, so I was 17, and that still tracks. Yeah, the math is there. Angelo,
the math do be mathing.
Do be the college, and I do be the high schooler, and together we collect hats.
Now, back in the day, I was playing on the shittiest laptop that I could. In fact, it was the only laptop that I could because it was the only one I had. I intimately remember it was an AMD Turion X2. Like, it was one of the first AMD dual-core processors at 1.6 gigahertz. It had 1 gigabyte of RAM and an 80 gig hard drive, and it had an NVIDIA GeForce Go 6100.
Amazing.
This thing was not a powerhouse. It ran Team Fortress 2 on low at about 20 frames per second.
I remember that was back when, like, first of all, like the memories of those stats, those hardware stats, that was back before AMD was really ever considered a competitor to Intel at that time.
Actually, I want to save that conversation for later.
Sure.
At that point in time, AMD was on top.
I will say the other thing that reminds me of when you're saying like 80 gig hard drive, that was like the time where I think on the consumer level, terabyte drives were like started being developed, and they were close to like market, but people would be like, oh, how much hard drive space do you have? And some people would be like, oh, I have like 240, or some people would be like, I have 500, whatever. But it was like, that's like a
if you had
high-end rig
500
amount.
gigs, you were balling.
Yeah, it was nuts. But like, you know, I remember hearing people having like a terabyte. I think it was probably about 2014. That sounds about right.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like, that's when, you know, people just started going hog wild with, you know, storage and, you know, downloading everything they could off the internet, basically.
Exactly. Like I remember I was working retail around 2014. 1 terabyte became extremely common even on low end PCs.
Hmm.
And it was so much storage that it was really hard to contextualize for people. Like someone would come in and they wouldn't know really anything about computers, and it's like, oh, this is a 1 terabyte hard drive that can fit almost anything you would ever want on it. And they were like, well, how much is anything I would ever want? It's like, well, if you were writing text documents, that would be the entire library of Alexandria, and you'd have enough room for your baby photos. Or you would have around 500,000 pictures on there. And they're like, that's a lot. That's too much. Is there something cheaper that doesn't have this much? Like, you get to a point in storage where it's not that important for most people, but at the same time, 1 terabyte now is kind of small. It's perfectly serviceable. I don't think anybody
Yes.
would be disappointed with 1 terabyte unless they're storing video. But it's kind of small. You can get more for cheap. But what's surprising is that a gamer playing the Orange Box this time next year might not be doing it from a Windows PC at all. They might be doing it from one of Valve's newfangled Linux contraptions.
Technically first-party hardware.
Technically first-party hardware. In this last week, Valve opened its doors and spoke to the world saying, gamers, we have a controller for you. We have a controller for a cube for you. And for this cube, you can use it to run the Steam frame. They just made a torrent, a tidal wave of crazy hardware. And it really, really, really looks compelling with only a few caveats. So the controller, I'm not going to say too much about that. Jay, do you remember the original Steam controller?
I do. I remember after they had essentially discontinued it and it was available for sale at relatively very cheap prices.
It was
I
a
wanted
sale
to
for
get one then.
$5.
Yes. I wanted to get one then just because you and I used to play a lot of fighting games. I'm not a huge fan of fighting games on controller, but I do feel like they have their place. And
For $5.
Steam's, for first of all, a decent first party controller at $5. You should take that every time. I just didn't get a chance to snap one up. Second of all, one of the things with Steam's controllers is that they use trackpads, or at least that one specifically used trackpads instead of joypads. This new iteration uses joypads and trackpad. But I mean, that's a good configuration for fighting games if the fidelity on the trackpad's high enough, because you will infinitely be able to move much more intuitively than on a joypad. So
I'm really interested. The new controller is basically all of the controls of the Steam Deck, but in a controller. So it's actually going to be pretty solid. One really nice thing, and they really, really harped on how special this is, the analog sticks use Hall effect sensors.
yes.
So that should eliminate joystick drift. This is something that has plagued hardware manufacturers since like the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, all of them have had joystick drift issues. And they never really tried to fix it, even though the solution has been there for like 30 years. And so Valve is actually just being like, guys, we understand this stick is 30 cents more expensive per part. Let's just do it right. Let's do it good. So, on one hand, I really want to glaze the Steam controller. On the other hand, I don't need one. I have a fairly new Xbox controller that I use for my PC, and while the Steam controller is definitely going to be better, I just don't need it.
Which one did you pick up? I don't think you told me about this controller.
Oh, it is just an Xbox Series 1S or 1X
Oh,
controller.
okay.
I used to use a PS4 controller with my PC and it broke.
I see. Oh,
And
fair.
so I needed a new controller, so instead of just stealing Dio's controller from their PS4 because they also needed a controller, I just bought this controller. I explicitly bought it so that I could play Night Rain.
That's fair. On the topic of controllers, quickly, I will go back on the new Steam controller. It's actually not a Hall effect controller.
They
It's
call
actually
it MR something.
no, it's TMR. TMR controllers are a little bit more advanced than your Hall effect controllers. Hall effect is considered to be an older technology for controller joypads at this time. The only reason I'm correcting is because it is better than Hall effect.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You know,
I've just been calling it Hall effect because, to my understanding, the Hall effect sensors are magnetic sensors, and the TMR is something magnetic resonance.
it's tunnel resistance. So I think the thing is that it isolates the joystick in its own little sort of section of electromagnetic, like
Magnetic flux.
yeah, like it basically
Fields. Electromagnetism. We're not engineer enough to really know.
We're not.
I've just been calling them Hall effect because I was like, oh, it uses magnets. It must be Hall effect.
we can be very ICP about this. Magnets, how do they work? Okay.
All we know
and
is
on
that
the
it's better.
On the topic of controllers, I currently use I did splurge. I do have a Elite series.
Oh, you've got
2.
the Elite. I've got the Plebeian.
I've got this is Elite Series 2, so this is like the next one after that because I heard the Elite series, the original was good, but the Series 2 actually does improve on a lot of the things of like the controller feel and also even like I don't know if you can see on my camera here very well, but it is textured here.
Nice.
And the old Elite also was textured, except the texturing tended to wear off. So that was no good.
So one thing I want to gripe about this for exactly 30 seconds because this is my own fault. When I bought this controller, I just assumed that it used rechargeable batteries because what controller in the last decade doesn't use rechargeable batteries? What the hell is that? What? Why does the Xbox Plebeian controller use goddamn AA's? There is actually a little like rechargeable kit that you can get for it that's like $20 or something, and then it'll recharge through the USB-C port, and that's fine. I understand that.
Yeah.
Why in the year of our Lord 2025 does a controller still use AA's?
I mean, in the same vein, so you'd think by me saying like, oh, I've got the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, and that would come with all the things which make it so elite. No, you have to buy an upgrade kit in order to use the back paddles.
What the hell?
Yeah. You see these little slots here in the back?
Gaming is going out of business.
Well, Microsoft Gaming is not going out of business, but certainly their hardware division. So that's actually a really good thing that you're mentioning because the Steam machine is a strategic release. This is a strategic announcement as they come. They are now putting their best foot forward, offering a crazy game library available on a console, or even you could use it as a gaming PC. Like, it could be your answer to just having, if you have a work laptop, and then you could just have a gaming computer in the form of that box. At a time where Microsoft is truly admitting its vulnerability in not really being able to keep up with the console space now. They are, as many people have expected and have seen, they're winding down their operations. We're not really expecting any new major announcements from Microsoft in regards to an Xbox console.
It's kind of crazy how just about every store has stopped carrying the Xbox hardware. the Xbox consoles, and there's no announcement of a new console coming, like, ever. It really does seem like Microsoft is just like, let everybody else build the consoles and we'll just make the Game Pass for them. Like the ROG Ally and things of that nature. The Steam machine really stands on its own, though, because it's just a PC. It is a Linux PC that will have Windows support if you want it, but Valve themselves just says, it's your computer, do what you want with it. Here's some Windows drivers if you want it, because it has a semi-custom video card and CPU that will basically only exist in a Steam machine.
Yep.
Now, I did a little bit of digging, a little bit of investigation. As far as I can tell, if we want to put this, its graphics prowess in terms that is understandable or more comparable, the graphics card that is in the Steam machine is similar to an AMD RX 6600, but with the RDNA 3 architecture, which is a lot of words. According to various websites, that puts it near RTX 2060 or RTX 3060 performance, somewhere in that range.
With a lot of like AI upscaling, I think that's some of the efficiency that they're offering.
Yes. So when Valve were saying that, oh my god, you can play games in 4K at 60 frames per second, biggest asterisk. If they are like an old indie game, if it is Cave Story, you can play that at 4K 60, sure. Every other game, if you want to run it at 4K 60 frames per second, you are going to have to use FSR, which is AMD's, they call it Fidelity Super Resolution, where they run the game at a lower resolution, like 1080 or even 720p. And then they use AI upscaling to make it look good. Now, I heard that that's actually fine. I've heard that other people use it, that it seems decent. And quite frankly, if that gives you playable performance, I think that'll be great. I think that'll be great. I think it'll be fine. I would personally just run the game at 1080p. Skip the whole FSR thing, especially if you're on a 4K TV. Like, 4K scales down to 1080p perfectly.
Yeah, you don't want to have any stuttering if you can avoid it. That sort of is immersion breaking sometimes. Especially if your monitor or screen output is static, not dynamic, and that you're going to have to but you're relying on essentially the FSR tech. Like, the FSR tech is fine. It's been around for a while. It's not that it would look bad, but I would say if it's not necessary, if look, to the people where 4K 60 FPS gaming, if it matters to you, you already have like a different level of interest in that kind of graphic acuity that most people don't. So you would probably already have a nicer rig that consists of like a 570 Ti, and you would set aside thousands more for that nicer gaming computer.
Counterpoint, though, like, you have a point there. You have a point from classical PC gaming perspective. Counterpoint: if the Steam machine is the living room box, most TVs that people have bought over the last 5-6 years are 4K anyway. So it's not that people are going to be a 4K gamer. It's that they have a 4K TV, so it might as well do 4K gaming anyway. I think that is actually what Valve is chasing there. I think that's why they say, yeah, do 4K 60 FPS with FSR on. And I think that's reasonable. I think that's okay.
Yeah, especially with games that are older, but are still considered to be graphical giants. Like, for example, Cyberpunk is now an older game, but you still want to see that game in its full glory, right?
And Elden Ring also. There is
Yeah.
nothing wrong with running Elden Ring on the Steam machine. I've run it on my Steam Deck. On my Steam Deck, it struggles, to be fair. On the Steam Deck, it is a 20 to 30 FPS on low sort of game. With the Steam machine, you should be able to run it medium settings, I would imagine, at 1080p. With FSR, I'm sure it looks great on a TV. And Elden Ring is a good-looking game, I think. I think that would be a great experience. Having that said, I feel like people like you or I are definitely not the target audience for the Steam machine. Like, I already have a really good computer. I already have a really, really good computer. It is better than any Steam machine could ever be. And if I really wanted to, I could install Linux on it and get the Steam machine experience on my computer. And even Dio was thinking, well, it could be good for a living room TV. And I was like, you're right. It could be good for a living room console. Except, Dio, you also want to upgrade your PC this year. And once you do that, I will take the parts that you are using in your old PC and use those for an even better living room PC than what the Steam machine would do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference there is that the Steam machine is an all-in-one device. It's got everything that you need to make like the Steam controllers work built in. Another thing,
if
it should be cheap.
It should be relatively cheap. It should also, like if I had to guess, it'll probably come with, maybe it'll come with like Game Pass like offers where if you buy it and you have like this essentially this first party hardware console, I don't see why they wouldn't essentially offer something like a Game Pass for people who want to try other new games on their new little console, as opposed to just their Steam library, because you have your Steam library.
Does Game Pass isn't there a thing about Game Pass where you can like run it through a browser, like cloud gaming?
I don't know. It's been
I thought that was a thing.
I mean,
there was a
technically,
thing where Phil Spencer was like, "Oh my God, everything is an Xbox." I have no reason to believe that, even though it might take some nerdiness, I have no reason to believe that you couldn't get Game Pass running on a Steam machine.
Sure.
Or you could just install Windows on it and then it would work right away.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, because it's mostly just like, if you know anything about using Steam as like, the game delivery program that it is, it also has built-in like controller.
On top of that, there's a lot of just free games on Steam.
That's true.
I don't think that they need like a Steam Pass or some type of Game Pass sort of feature to go along with it.
That's fair. I also think that like going back to the controller connectivity, if you want to hook up like your PS5 controller, PS4 controller,
Xbox controller,
your fight pads, you should be able to do all of that, because again, if the assumption here, I think, is that you're just running Steam app through this Steam machine, and again, Steam app is very compatible with multiple controller inputs.
Not only that, Steam's controller input settings are ridiculously good.
Yes.
Like there's a little bit of confusion whether you're running it in like big picture mode versus like desktop mode. Sometimes there's a little bit of a difference there. But when you're running Steam in big picture mode, you basically get system-wide like controller remapping. You can create controller profiles for your individual controllers, or like download controller profiles from the web for any hardware you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember 15 or 20 years ago, getting any controller working on your PC could be a nightmare, to the point where anything but the wired Xbox 360 controllers were basically a crapshoot. And now, basically any controller that you can get, if Steam recognizes it in its UI, it will work in a game. It's kind of crazy.
And, the truth is we haven't even moved on to sort of maybe arguably the biggest talking point about what they're trying to do. So they've also announced the Steam Frame, which is the next generation of their 3D
VR
headset. VR headset. Angelo had a Steam Vive. I don't know if he still has it.
I actually do.
And you really enjoyed blah, 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 blah. What's it called? Half-Life 3 Alex or whatever. Half-Life 2 Alex. I
So
don't know what they called it.
I've got a lot of feelings about the Vive
Yeah.
and VR in general. I did enjoy. I'm going to say that, but I'm going to preface everything that I have to say with that. I enjoyed my Steam Vive. I'm HTC Vive that was partnered with Valve, I should say. Especially since I bought it used, I got it for like $500. It was overall a really good deal. I got my money's worth out of it. When I was in VR, I got insane motion sickness to the point where I could only play like Half-Life Alyx for like 45 minutes to an hour at a time at the most. I ended up not even finishing the game because certain parts of it just made me really queasy and I couldn't finish. Eventually, by the end of my Vive's use, it turned into a Beat Saber machine. Now, to be fair, Beat Saber's so good. I love Beat Saber. The only reason I don't have my Vive set up right now is because where my workstation is doesn't really work with the lighthouses, little base stations that are used for outside-in tracking. The Steam frame kind of fixes that. So in the VR world, there's tracking, there's body tracking, there's motion tracking, there is position tracking. The way that like the HTC Vive and the Valve Index worked, they had these lighthouses, they called them, little boxes that you put on your wall, and they look at you and they say, oh, this is where that device is. This is where the headset is. This is where the controllers are. This is where the body sensors are, if you bought some body sensors. And that was great, but it only worked in the room where you had those lighthouses. And it was really, really accurate. It didn't matter. As long as those lighthouses could see the controller, the tracker, it was good. The HTC, or the Steam frame uses inside-out tracking. Now, what this means is that the headset has cameras on it. It has black and white cameras that look for where your arms and your controllers are. It uses the objects in your room with just vision to determine where your
boundaries
headset
are.
is.
Yeah.
And boundaries, you can just go anywhere with it. You can just start walking. It has a battery. It is completely wireless. You can go outside with it if you want. You can play your Steam frame in the park if that's what you want to do. Because not only is the Steam frame a VR headset that wirelessly connects to your PC, it is on its own a gaming PC. There's a catch.
I think it is the evolution of, or it's the expected evolution of what 3D
Of what VR
headsets are were supposed to be. Because a lot of people mentioned, I remember when we talked about it years ago at this point, like 3 years ago maybe. And before that, when VR was still just entering its spaces, like there's a lot of limitations, cabling, wires, power supply. And again, like, like setting up boundaries using towers or whatever else they may have. I remember a while ago, we talked about the fact that they are moving to like cameras built into the headset. So it's nice that we're seeing that. I still question its accessibility.
And
There's certain there's still things like we talk about the Steam machine's price, and of course they're going to try and I think they're going to bundle it. They want to do bundles of the controller and of the frame, but I still think that bundle ends up being, maybe they have some more success, depending on what the games are going to be for like the frame specifically. But I feel like, let's say if your whole pool of people who buy the Steam machine is the 100, like the considered to be the 100% of that 100%, who is buying the controller, which I assume, honestly,
So the frame
unless
does
you,
have its own controller. It'll work with the Steam
yes,
controller,
yes,
but it also comes with its own controller, so you don't
yeah,
need to
it
do
has
that.
its own, like, each hand has its own, like, sort of
Yeah.
control, right? Like, which is understandable. But the Steam controller, it will be undoubtedly part of the package, if when they do, like, that kind of thing. And that's probably only still going to be, maybe, my guess, 20% uptake at best for just the controller. And then the frame, do you think they can price the frame more expensively than the machine?
So I I personally believe that the frame will be the most expensive piece here.
So it will, you think
Absolutely.
it'll be like, let's say if the machine is 700 or something. That's maybe conservative. I don't know.
I personally expect the Steam machine to be like 700 US.
Sure.
I kind of expect it to hit like the
Like
$1,000
nine.
mark here in Canada.
Sure.
And even at that price, that's a lot of money, but I think that's a compelling argument to make there.
Sure.
I personally expect the Steam frame to come in at like $1,500 Canadian. That's what the
Right.
Valve Index launched at. The only reason why it might be less than that is that maybe by not needing the lighthouses,
Like
it is
accessories,
just physically
essentially.
cheaper.
Could be.
But at the same time, the Steam frame, unlike the Valve Index or the HTC Vive, those were a display with tracking technology around it.
Mm-hmm.
The Steam frame is a PC with the catch. It uses an ARM processor. It is a gaming PC that uses an ARM processor. And then it also has an abstraction layer so you can install Steam games right to the headset if you don't want to stream them from your PC.
That is interesting. I still think, going back to
If
the
they
idea
can
of
make
how
it
many
cheaper,
people, like, if they, like, do you think it's going to be more than
all of these come down to
10%?
cost.
Do you think it's
All of
going to
these
come
come
down
down
to
to cost.
Sure. But like for the average consumer, which is what this piece of hardware, this announcement of this hardware is for, which is decidedly likely to be more casual, towards, the family living room crowd of gaming, then I would have to assume that you're still only gonna get 5, maybe 10% at most, uptake
I personally
from the
think that when
general
it
Steam
comes to
machine
something like
purchase.
the frame, I think that the only people who will be buying the Steam frame will be people who have been VR curious or people who have an old index and love it.
VR curious, you
VR,
say?
no, 100%. The
Yeah,
Steam machine, I think that is going to be very compelling to casuals and people who aren't PC enthusiasts.
that's
Like,
fair. And again, they know
honestly,
that like they're not into maybe like
graphics
the
cards are
Xbox side of things.
stupid expensive. Graphics cards are stupid
Oh,
expensive right
absolutely.
now. When I upgraded my graphics card earlier this year, it was $1,100 or $1,200. I can't remember. I've repressed the memory of how much it cost me because it pains me so. If they're able to deliver an entire PC for less than that, which based on its specs, they should be able to. They should be able to. The Steam machine has to be sub $1,000 Canadian, I think, to make sense.
I hope so.
The
On
controller
a side
has to
note,
be $100 or less Canadian, I think.
ooh, I don't know about that.
I don't know about
Even
that one.
Even Joy-Cons are $100, man.
Controllers are really expensive these days, man.
It's true.
I just look at a
I
controller and I'm
expect
like,
the
why are you
controller.
so expensive?
I expect the controller to be about 120.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Again, I won't get the controller just straight up. I know that much.
yeah, going back to the mention of HTC Vive, I realized there's something in my brain that clicked. I was like, I haven't heard about HTC in a long time. I
Oh
wonder
yeah,
what's
because
up
they
with
don't
them.
make phones. Well, rather they don't put they don't put their name on products anymore.
No,
They make products for other people.
yes, they have. I would say they've lost a lot of market share in probably the last 10 years.
Oh yeah.
I don't really follow tech companies that much. I just remember hearing about HTC as a brand a lot more about 15 years ago.
There's actually
And
a really good
now it's
reason for
basically
that.
like I don't know anyone who has HTC anything.
You probably do because we don't know what's being made by HTC off the top of our head. HTC existed back in the 90s and early 2000s, just making phones for other people, like Sony Ericsson and even like Samsung and some of them. They would use HTC's manufacturing output until HTC was just like, well, we're making all this stuff. Let's just design one ourselves and put our name on it because we're HTC. We're making it ourselves anyway. And eventually, they did really well for a while. And then they did really bad for a while. And now they're back to just making things for other people.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. As like if they survive doing that, then that's absolutely fine. Many, many, many companies do exactly that. So
exactly.
But again, from like a name brand standpoint, like some people would have like an HTC phone or HTC other thing and be like, yeah, that's not something that's talked about anymore. People have like Apple.
Yeah. Samsung. Google.
Yeah. It is what it is, I guess.
I feel like I really, 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 really want the Valve hardware to do well. This is a big meme from the Linux community. But 2026 might finally be the year of the Linux desktop.
The year
we might
where
finally
Linux
see the year of the Linux desktop.
and also the year of where Linux is acknowledged to run games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
not that they haven't if you're like, a Steam Deck user and whatnot.
Well, the Steam Deck itself has gone crazy with it. I recently installed CachyOS, which is modeled a lot after after SteamOS. I've installed it on my laptop, and I've had basically no issues running games on my laptop. At least games that would run on my laptop to begin with. Linux feels like it's ready. So I'm really excited as long as they can hit the cost points, because if the Steam machine is too damn expensive, why the fuck did you even try Valve? For the frame, it has to be good. It has to be good, and the price point has to be correct, even though I expect it to be expensive. I kind of want one, and I just know immediately that I won't be able to afford one.
So here's the funny thing.
Rather, I won't be able to justify the price of one.
I might get a Steam machine. Well, we'll see what really happens here. There's no confirmed release date yet.
They're expecting it to be in March of next year.
Something like that. But I mean, I need to know when I can purchase and when I can receive one.
Yeah.
But like because my girlfriend currently doesn't have a gaming computer.
Oh.
We're like Black Friday sales are coming up. We wouldn't mind picking up either some kind of gaming desktop or some sort of gaming laptop,
Handheld
possibly. Laptop. But the thing is like, I really don't know. I really don't know if we want to be patient enough to wait for a Steam machine, because at our estimated Canadian price points, I really think that the Steam machine will come closer to about, probably my guess is 1,100 Canadian. That's my guess.
Ouch. I feel like if it's dead in the water at that price point, but it could be. It could be.
Like there could be lots of, because there's, at the end of the day, aside from just profit margin, there's a lot of things we don't really see. And I don't think they're going to do what Nintendo did for a lot of years, which was take a really big chunk off of profit.
I think they explicitly said that they don't intend to be a loss leader on these. Like, they're not a loss leader on the Steam Deck. They're not a loss. I doubt they'll be a loss leader on any of these.
And I understand that. I get it. And that's why I'm willing to think it's like it'll be the 1,100 range. And at the 1,100 range, there are lots of really decent pre-built gaming computers, whether you're talking about laptops or towers, and a lot of them have things like 470, 480 Ti's, or some of them will even have 560 Ti's in them, like just as a, easy sort of reference point for graphical output power. A lot of them are running, decent, not amazing processors, but again, like you sort of have that, you still have that feel that you have a computer that is overall you're more familiar with it. You're more a little bit more capable. Like it always runs down to this argument, and it's very likely that my partner will be playing at her computer desk as opposed to the living room. So with all those sort of form factors and use cases being defined, I don't think we're going to wait long enough for a Steam machine. I feel like if this announcement was made in like July, it would be more serious consideration, but to what end, really?
Yeah.
Unless she said, I really want a Steam frame, and I'm like, okay, that's a consideration, but you would still run a Steam frame, alongside
a more powerful PC.
Exactly. So it's sort of it's a difficult. We've been pumping its tires, like this episode is not sponsored by Steam or Valve or Gabecast.
This is a Valve heavy episode. It just is. It's all we have to talk about this week.
Well, I don't want to blather more about traveling, and there's only so much to do leading up to things like Black Friday and post Remembrance Day and then into Christmas. So it's whatever. But I don't know. I hope they are successful too, in the way that you said. I just don't think you and I are not the primary
we absolutely aren't.
Anyways, the Steam frame thing, I am still not convinced. VR has, especially because here's the other thing.
I want to like it from a nerd perspective.
Sure.
But having tried VR, I don't want to spend like $1,500 on it just to find out I don't like it again.
And I want to point out as well, like, maybe it's me and I just not paying attention to the space. But aside from the very recent announcement, the only other VR project I can think of was Apple's like VR
Vision
Pro thingy. Yeah. And that was bomb. That was an absolute, like, I don't know anyone talking about that. It was also
$3,500 US.
That's true. But I'm just saying, like, if you compare the conversations that we were having about it,
it couldn't even play games.
The conversations we were having about VR headsets roughly 6 years ago, I want to say, it's actually the VR headset conversation is actually much diminished.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's partly because everybody realized that the tech was not going to get cheap enough for mass adoption fast enough.
Yeah, it didn't mature
and that has
enough.
Consistently been the case, even with things like the Meta Quest or Quest 2, where they were much cheaper. Like they were like $400 or $500 US.
Right.
But that's still very expensive when you want to either use it with a more expensive computer,
yes,
or be limited by what it can run on its own natively.
And then we talk about the hardware, we talk about the hardware price, but we're not even talking about the software yet. That's one thing we never talked about really throughout this whole episode. It's like,
that's the thing.
What is the best VR game of the last 5 years, even since COVID?
Half-Life Alyx.
Right? Like that's bad. Like that's like not the game, but it's bad for that whole
and
space.
Valve themselves has come out and said they are not currently working on a VR title, like a big VR game. They're not working on one. So VR, I still believe that it is going to stay as a part of gaming. I don't believe it's completely dead, but it is so ridiculously expensive still. And I don't think the frame is going to fix this, that it doesn't make sense for developers to go crazy with it. The only VR game
Indie developer,
that
why
I
would you
really,
put all
really
your
wanted
money
to
there?
play in VR was a game called Sushiben, which came out a few months ago.
Okay.
But the reality is, because they knew that they're like, well, even though we've designed this game to be a VR game, if we make it for just VR, we're never going to make our money back. So there is a desktop version of it. You can just play it without VR. No problem.
Yep. That is part of the issue. And then we didn't even talk about things like people having headaches and susceptible to motion sickness and all these other things. Like people get motion sickness just playing FPS games.
Oh yeah.
Just standard FPS games. So it is. I'm in full agreement with you that I would like to see newer technologies thrive. I just still don't see where VR fits in that yet. But that being said, we have to make those steps so that one day whoever actually comes out with the most successful VR, product can do so confidently with technology that's been developed, in that time, in that space.
Oh yeah.
Whether that just comes out to tiny little swim-sized goggles and there's so many things that it could come with. Like, even now that we didn't really talk about the VR controllers for the frame, but they kind of look like just standard VR controllers still. They don't really look like they're high fidelity in any way.
I don't think there's anything very special to talk about them. Basically, they just said that they use the same sticks as the Steam controller. They've got a lot of capacitive sensors for like finger sensing, and they should just be good controllers. With all of that said, I would like to wish a happy 21st birthday to Half-Life 2. Congratulations, Half-Life 2. You can drink anywhere in the world where booze is illegal. Is legal.
And you'll get arrested if the booze is illegal. Because it's just illegal.
But 21. 2 + 1. You know what that means.
Only 29 more years till it's 50 years old.
Oh, I thought it means that they can hear us more in the next episode of the Otafest podcast.
They will. And they shall.
Bye.
Take care.